Mr. Tenaglia, how much did the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act authorize for shipbuilding?
I do not have that particular figure.
Yeah.
The total amount of contract obligations in
Yeah.
2022 was over $400 billion.
For shipbuilding, it authorized $32.6 billion. Mr. Tenaglia, how much on average does the military spend on Viagra each year?
I don't have that figure, ma'am.
About $41.6 million.
This bombshell of a fact from Pennsylvania Representative Summer Lee on how much money the U.S. military spends on Viagra is nothing short of remarkable. And we'll get to why that is and why they're spending so much money there. Let's just set the stage first of what's going on in Congress these days when it comes to funding our military. Basically, the Senate is scrambling to pass its $886 billion Pentagon policy bill before August, which you might think would be an easy task. After all, there's nothing that has as much bipartisan support in the US government as funding the war machine. I mean, national security. But there have been concerns from the right of all places as to what the Pentagon is actually funding. In a related Senate vote for months, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville has been blocking the passage because of the money the Pentagon spends to cover travel expenses for military members seeking abortion care. This block is holding up confirmation of over 300 military positions. And the AP puts it quite succinctly when it reported that, quote, Alabama Senator Tuberville is waging an unprecedented campaign to try to change Pentagon abortion policy by holding up hundreds of military nominations and promotions, forcing less experienced leaders into top jobs, and raising concerns at the Pentagon about military readiness. So because a Southern senator personally disagrees with abortion, he is holding the country's security hostage. But this begs the question that Summer Lee sharply brought up. What else does the Pentagon fund? Viagra, lots of it, and a lot of other drugs, substances, and practices that a lot of Americans probably don't agree with, but that's what living in a pluralistic society means, and you'd think someone like a sitting senator would understand that dynamic. The US military funds the drug and healthcare costs of its members, and if its members get abortions or need ED medication, they will fund those. Of course, the constant battles over abortion get so much pressure from the right, and the drugs that also may contribute to a pregnancy, of course, is never subject to any scrutiny. What's interesting is that according to the Military Times, less than 10% of the prescriptions of Viagra were for active duty personnel. And we should also note that male veterans with PTSD, quote, are significantly more likely than their civilian counterparts to report erectile dysfunction or other sexual problems. That's according to the US Department of Veterans Affairs. All of this is to say that and I'm sure people like Representative Lee, are not inherently opposed to the Pentagon funding healthcare for certain conditions like ED, especially if it is helpful for veterans suffering from PTSD. But you cannot hold up confirmations over abortions if you aren't willing to talk about why Viagra gets to skate on through without any oversight whatsoever. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.